the Juneau Utility Commission to order. Roll has been taken. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Cheryl, second by Ross to approve the agenda. Any questions or additions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. Let's see, approve the minutes of the previous meetings.
No move.
Motion by Ross, second by Bart to approve the minutes of the previous meetings. Any additions or any questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public appearances and comments. Let the record state no one is here. All right, monthly business, approve the vouchers and the checks.
So move.
Second. Motion by Cheryl, second by Dick to approve them vouchers and the checks. Any questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Prior month income statement. Anybody have any questions or concerns about that? If none, we will move on to council acts affecting the utility. Resolution 46, 2021, resolution authorizing execution of the DNR Principal Forgiveness Financial Assistance Agreement.
That's for the lateral program that for the customers to be reimbursed for.
Consumption and loss.
Any ideas on sewage treatment, Peter? We're up 10% from last month.
Rain? I was gonna say it rained.
How many days of rain will push it up 10%? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know how to even,
It's not, you can't necessarily lose days, it's the amount of rain we got.
Well, that's true too, I didn't think about that.
measure that too without knowing how much.
You guys keep track of how much we get in a month?
Rain? Yeah.
That's something you can provide us, just out of curiosity on a regular basis? That would help to, I think, help us
Sure.
with that, just to have some visibility, because in my house, I don't keep the rain gauge.
Sure, we have
Peter, if you
that.
wanna get that to me, I can just put it up along with the water pumping section on here.
Okay.
I'll be moving.
Yep. You're welcome. All right. Any other questions on that?
I have a question. When I did this today, I realized that the water was 18.4% unaccounted for, and the sewage is 18.5. It just seemed weird that it was so close that the water that's, we can't account for is about the same as the amount of sewage. Does that have any correlation between the two, or we don't really know why we have either one, so we don't know?
Well, I mean, that's like this gallons filtration from the city. How do you
Okay.
know it's almost 3 million gallons? We don't meter it, so how do you know?
Okay. Just didn't know if there was a correlation somehow.
No, where do we get this number from?
What number?
The gallons infiltration from the city, it's 2,947,900
It's the total flow less the backwash and the amount we sold and some cents usage. And that's the balance of what's not accounted for by those categories.
Can you say that again?
Take the total flow
Yeah.
and we take out the backwash flow,
Mm-hmm.
the sand, whatever stuff. And then however much the total amount we sold or billed for to customers. and then the amount that we bill to Sensi, that's on their form of how many gallons they use. So you take the total flow, subtract all those, and you get
That's how much is on
the
account
balance of
for.
the 2.9 million.
Let's get that road fixed fast.
Any other questions? If not, review the totals of delinquent customers. I talked to Kylie today. She mentioned that this is the last one we have before the moratorium starts, so the numbers will probably be going up.
We got one more disconnection, so.
One more?
We do, it won't be before this meeting, but maybe one more disconnection. For the.
Ash, you've got delinquent letters out today. Of attended notice.
Okay.
This is the final month before it goes on tax rolls, though.
Right. Yeah, the one we're disconnecting, and that's it.
All right. So, reports of officials. Utility account, Lori.
Well, first I have to apologize for not getting you guys the budget earlier. I didn't find the notes that Alice had left in the computer that said that she normally gives them to you in September instead of October when they're due to be approved. So between not finding that note and then being gone last month for the meeting, kind of double whammied me, and I apologize. I guess I just followed what she did in the past, and got the information from Nick and Peter for their capital items. Filled in the blanks, did some averages. It looks like that mostly what she did on calculating both sales and expenses, that she took about a 3-year average. She estimates for the rest, we take 9 months through September and estimated that throughout the rest of the year. And then I took 2019, 2020, and then the estimated for 2021 and came out with an average. And I kind of looked at that and thought, well, if it looks like it's going on that track or not or whatever, and kind of make a judgment call after that to come up with the 2022 budget. On wastewater sales, we have that same procedure on the sales, but also added $7,500 a month for Sensient's new rates. It should be, I looked back at other invoices from this year, and with the new rates that are in the sewer study, they should be averaging around $6,000 to $6,500 a month, less. I don't know what the penalty charges are going to be, so I just averaged it at $7,500 a month, that we would have an increase from Sensient. So that's included in the sales budget. Other than that, I'll try to answer any questions you guys have.
If we have street lighting LED conversions, is that 100 fixtures, does that take care of everything that's left in the city? That's what percentage?
No, how I came up with 100 lights was I counted the amount of lights to finish off 26 in the main avenues coming into town, and I ended up just rounding it up to 100 for as a number for budget purposes. But this is not gonna, I mean, we'll probably still only get 40% conversion at that point, because there's a lot of ornamental lighting stuff, the side streets and things like that that are not gonna be completed and will be a higher cost because those fixtures are different. So I figured if we start off with 100, that'll give us a good starting point with how we wanna go from there for the future, as far as if we wanna increase that, or if we think that's a good number for being projected to be done in 5 years, or, so that was my thought on that. Talked to Sean for the total assets of what the city owns as far as street lighting, that came out to 25,000, that's with depreciation. So we would have to purchase those lights from the city. This can be something that I think we should pursue it, because I talked to 5 other utilities, both larger and small, Oconomowoc, Columbus, Waupun, Eustisburg, and Stoughton, and they all, except Eustisburg. Eustisburg's really weird, but I shouldn't say weird, they're like us, but no one else, the utility owns the street lighting, the city does not. So,
This is a flip from what we had talked about earlier, that the
Correct.
city would own all of the
Correct.
streetlights.
and when you talk to the attorney, that's when Wagner talked to the attorney's the one that didn't know if that'd be a good choice by the utility to be giving up those assets to the city, and the attorney's the one that said most municipalities own the electric, own the street lighting, so that's when I started looking into it. And in the beginning, when I was looking over that, my thought process was there was basically a split 50-50 ownership. To me, it didn't matter who took the ownership, it was just for billing purposes, for replacement purposes, for everything. It's a nightmare to work with, because there's no rhyme or reason why the city owns this street light, and why because some of them are even spread out on the road. It's not like, here's a road, utility owns this. There's some that leapfrog around, and I have no idea why, so.
Kind of like voting wards.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
got it.
So,
No, it's not that screwed up.
but I think for an image wise, for the utility to have that, and to also be pursuing going to LED, will show the city that, the utility and the city are making efforts to be energy efficient, and yeah.
Kind of payback is there on the LED light?
Well, a 100-watt equivalent is 40. It equates to 40 watts. I haven't done the total what it cost, what if the entire system was LED converted, but the usage. And it's funny, the usage is less, but the fixture charge is higher. But we're cutting back on maintenance. We have a 20-year life photo eye on it now, as well as the fixture is 20-year warranty as well.
The manufacturer guarantees that?
The manufacturer guarantees 10-year, but
Because I'm just, the reason I'm asking is because I've seen LED fixtures go in less than 3 to 4
And-
years. I've seen LED fixtures
No,
go in 3 to 4
absolutely.
years, and that's why I'm asking.
and the lighting fixtures that are on our joint purchasing website are either Cree or can't think of the other one right now. Luna Trek, but Cree is a really good fixture to purchase from as far as reliable
Well,
and.
they bought Rue, so it must be a new name, so I'm assuming.
As far as the fixtures, Nick, you say there's some that are decorative. Is there a particular reason we keep them, other than that's what's there?
Well, in order for us to convert those, because that's more area lighting with those smaller decorative lightings. So if we were to change, we'd have to change the aluminum poles, everything to get the height, to get that proper cast off. Otherwise, and I think just a lot of communities went that route for that area lighting instead of more direct light on the road and the sidewalk. So for us to make that change would be pretty high cost.
We have an industrial substation yard fence extension.
Yeah, so especially now, while we're running out of room in our yard for storing our stock items, and the last time our pole shipment was put in, the guy couldn't get in the yard. So they ended up dropping all the poles on the road. So we're looking for expansion for stock inventory. And it's becoming more important to us now, especially with the transformer lead times. I'm ordering 60 transformers at a time rather than here's 10, because we're up to 38-week lead times now. And I still don't have mine from February that we're waiting on. So instead of putting $10,000 purchases on transformers, we're doing $53,000 purchases on transformers. At one time, I need space to keep those transformers likely off the ground. Would be helpful to have them off the ground. So this yard would be for wire and transformers, and the yard over there would be for poles, aluminum poles, and our pipe, so that the non-important material is away there. Okay, it's still going to be secured, but the most important equipment would be in our yard here. So the purpose is if to have room for having a higher stock on our equipment, because I'm having a large struggle right now with getting equipment here, and I don't see it changing. I talked to a couple of transformer manufacturers and even the rebuild manufacturers. They said they don't foresee this lead time changing drastically. They see this as being the new norm, and it's scary.
What kind of price skid are you taking?
As far as the price of the
Increase.
transformers,
Mm.
it went up almost 10%.
That's all? Well, that's amazing.
So I went from, let's see, on a 25 kV transformer, it used to be about $800. And obviously each kVA transformer is different, but I'm up to 1200 on 25 kVs right now.
It's reasonable because copper wire is quadrupled.
But, yeah, have we fully seen the effect of that yet? I don't
Well,
know.
that's my biggest concern. That's where I'm really picky about how much I buy,
Right.
because you really kick yourself in the butt when you invest in all that and then find out, 3 months from now, it drops back down to the norm prior to COVID,
And it's kind of this juggling act because, we like to rely on all the other municipalities in the area to work together, but it's beginning to this point where we're all emailing each other for
What do you
items.
have?
Right, and
What do you have
now
right
people are starting to hold up because you gotta protect yourself first, before you,
They don't have it to give either.
right, so.
What is a CCT study?
That's the corrosion control.
Thank you.
That's, yeah,
Should know.
that's mandated by the DNR.
On the truck and the trailer, do you just age those out or?
So the trailer is, the truck is definitely not. So when both trucks were purchased, these are half-ton pickups. And I don't know why we got two, we used to have a 3/4 ton pickup. We're at the point now with this half-ton pickup, I cannot pull my back trailer when it's fully loaded.
No, I'm just,
Right,
I get
no.
the reasoning, I
So-
just was curious as.
No,
I
the
mean,
trailer is.
Normally, do you just age them out or?
Correct. That we put them on
after-
either a 10-year or a 20-year rotation. And through this process, Lori and I actually sat down and talked about this because through our vehicle replacement funds, there's no inflation percentage put on any of this. So like this trailer, for example, it was purchased for $5,000. Well, guess what? It was vehicle replacement fund was $5,000. You can't find a trailer for $5,000 anymore.
Well, I have a trailer in my garage right now that I bought, and I got a screaming good deal on it, and it's worth, I could sell it probably, we're getting close to double what I paid for
Right.
it brand new.
Right.
And that's 5 years old, so
Right.
I get it, I just was curious how we,
Yeah,
how, it's more a question of how we do it.
We
more
usually
than-
put them on 10 or 20-year replacements, dates. Like our bucket truck is dated now for 2024 based on our vehicle replacement fund. And I can explain right now the 3/4 ton pickup replacement. So the 3/4 ton pickup replacement, the trade-in value is $25,000. We purchased that 4 years ago for $27,000. So we paid $2,000 for this truck to drive for 4 years. So I count that as a win. But what we're getting out of this truck is we can actually haul our equipment for once instead of borrowing the city guy's truck twice a week. And it'll have a utility box on there, so we can go to a troubleshoot fully equipped instead of coming back to the shop 2 or 3 times, which I think we should have done in the first place. So that's the reasoning for that. That initial vehicle replacement fund for that truck that we purchased then had a higher replacement fund at that time because it was, replacement value was for a 3/4 ton to pick up. But then we bought a 1/2 ton pickup, there was cost savings there. So even with this 26,464, our vehicle replacement funds for each of those items are still well within a safe amount, especially knowing that our bucket truck is due for 2024. And that was my main concern, was making sure that no matter what we do, that we have to make sure that that has a good enough amount into that fund for that bucket truck, which it does. And then this trailer is a little bit different. It's an over deck trailer instead of having the fenders on site, because we can't put any of the attachments, and our transformers don't fit between.
Yeah, I figured it was an overdeck trailer.
So we're changing a little bit, and we're getting $3,000 for that trailer, which I looked up online, and for what condition it is in, the rust and the bills that went through, it's a fair price. The fire department can buy it because the overdeck.
You don't need to haul that Kissel to everything.
Yeah, because the Kissel will not be going on this new trailer.
That's fine.
Fire hydrants repainted, I know it's not a big dollar amount, is that something we do in-house? We have summer help do, or we have,
Outside.
I believe it's an outside contractor.
Same
It was on the-
last.
It was on the list, it was in the budget last year, and it wasn't done, so.
Okay.
Started with Matt Brady, so.
They did it 1 year where the street department did it, and it lasted like
not
months.
much.
Because these people are.
Yeah, I just wondered who was, how it was done, and I know they gotta be done sometime. Take down one of the package plants. It says it's a 2019 cost.
That was when it was done, the last time was in 2019. The plant is completely taken down, the aeration basin, the waste basins and everything, and they check all the piping, check the flights on the clarifier, check we check the stones to make sure that they're tight and everything, they get cleaned and everything, and then it goes back into service.
So that cost that you have on here, Peter, is from what, 2019 when it was done?
Mhm.
So it's a, by guess, by gosh.
I see you have list number 2 upgrade on the DNR replacement fund. I don't think that really can come out of there, that's just some plant equipment.
I was told by Alice that both lift station and,
Don't get caught.
but, yeah, I don't know.
I get, I mean,
That's
I
what
just
were
wanna
the
bring it
notes,
up, yeah.
but that's what I went with.
We may have done it before, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember
But
neither, Ross.
basically-
How is it that we check on that to see what we can do?
Yeah, but that's what it's for, the plant equipment.
You're definitely gonna have to come for those funds, so.
But the note that you have on here says restricted replacement of wastewater treatment equipment and lift stations only, is what is
Right, yeah, that's what she
the
had on there.
notes here. So I don't know if that's changed
Well,
or.
No, I know, it
This-
was supposed to be from the plant, for the plant, but.
I don't know if that makes any sense on the top there. Looks to me like it's the replacement fund, so.
2 is the one up
She
in
had-
North Main.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And She had some lift station stuff come out of there last year.
Can you see that, Ross?
But you were asking, how do you verify what you can
Right.
use? Do anybody have an answer?
Does anybody know how to do that without having flags going? Watch them, what they're doing.
Ask for
Do an audit.
forgiveness rather than permission.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can play a new one, that's what we always did, so, you know.
Blame it on
This is my
Alice.
first question, so.
She's on here.
Not here to defend herself.
I
That's
don't
when you
remember,
just use
Ross.
a newbie card, regardless of who was
Exactly.
there before you.
Yeah.
I'm new
But
at this, so,
it's
so
certainly-
learn me, you know, it's just.
It's certainly an extension of your collection system there.
I would think so too.
I know, but it was the cost of building the plant, that, then you
Yeah.
start that replacement fund, so if we ever had to replace the plant, there should be money there. There won't be, but you know what I mean?
Right. But then we also have funds set aside for like water tower maintenance and whatever too, you know, for painting and whatever, that's on a restricted account too, isn't it? Through the DNR?
I don't think that's
Yeah.
restricted, is it? I
The
think the only-
DNR fund is, yes, that's restricted.
That's the only one that's restricted, I know, is the DNR.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
You got some better options, Peter, this time for that than what was being planned?
We had 2 quotes, right?
For lift station 2?
We got one from Xylem and one from
Yeah.
Sowell.
Yeah.
You know, we were told that the discharge pipe is the biggest problem there, with it being pitched uphill and fairly undersized and what have you, as far as the back pressure going back to the lift. Is that, those guys confirm that? That you were taking the fire truck up there and flushing it and what have you? I mean, if we don't know where our real problem is, but, you know, we put in all kinds of new equipment in that vault or change that vault and, you know, use the wet well or whatever, are we still gonna have problems with any kind of pump we put in there, pushing it that distance uphill before gravity flows on North Main? That's
300 feet up there, isn't it?
That's a long-
And it's
long
only a
stroke,
4-inch
I know that.
post.
the thing been working okay since I rewired it, as far as.
Well, that works, yeah, but I
That
mean,
works.
having to go up every week,
And
twice
clean
a week to
Sometimes
clean
2
it
or 3
out.
times a week.
Clean out the
Yeah.
The
rain.
one-
We were just up there today, and it ran all weekend, so.
That one Friday, well, were we up there 3 times on the same day,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
We have
Hmm?
we have
What are
any
they gonna
electrical
put out?
issues with
Knock on
You got
wood,
power.
no?
it,
I can give you that.
okay?
All
Okay.
right.
When are they gonna replace the
Done
pumps
well.
that they had put in for pumps?
We were gonna put in the pumps that were in, lift station 3. Yeah, they were gonna rebuild them and set up a system, basically,
Now you're gonna use that vault? Can you get by with using that old vault?
well, we would use the original wet well, and then they would run the pipes up through the wall into the dry side and hook it up to that other pipe that we use for
Okay,
flushing.
you, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
So, what I know about it, sounds like it would work, but.
Yeah, but I mean, it is only 4 inch, and it's 300, works over 300, just a little.
That's a long push,
Yeah.
because then once you flushed it out using the fire truck, then it was good for a while.
Which we
Yeah.
need to probably do again.
Yeah.
They don't push the
Like
rags.
quarterly.
You gotta remember, we're taking that whole dry well and turning it into a wet well, so a
Right.
pump, when it runs, it's pushing 1,300 gallons at a time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Instead of 40 gallons at a
Right.
time.
Yeah.
right,
So, I mean, that in and of itself will make a big difference.
I would hope so.
And right now, for whatever reason, the last few times we went up there, we keep finding stones in those
Yeah, something.
check valves, so, and we're not sure where that's coming from again, so. So then if you have to fix that, then you're repairing manholes or that wet, that dry, or wet well again, maybe unless if that's where it's coming from, if something's starting to
Flake
crumble
off
in
the
there or
walls.
whatever, yeah. But it does not take a big stone at all.
Mm-mm.
No, don't think much of anything.
No.
Let's check those.
So then, if you're using that vault as your holding tank, you're doing everything from the top now. Everything's gonna have to be serviced from the
same style as all the other lift stations.
Okay.
We don't eliminate having to do confined space entry.
Okay.
It's always warm down
It's not my hangout.
Yeah, there's a positive to everything.
There's
right?
better places to hang out where it's warm. Money,
there. Compared
anymore.
to being up on top at the control panel.
All right. Anything else? Anybody got?
But now going back to those pumps that you're looking, do they have the ability to consume those rags and chop them up? That's a lift grinder in this one, so, I mean, are we still gonna have issues? Is that a shot in the dark of what we're doing again here?
Well, they were gonna rebuild them, put it in different colors, so.
But are those grinder pumps, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
The old pumps from Lift 3, are they grinder pumps, Peter?
No, they're not.
So, do they recommend some kind of screen or filtering system before you get to those pumps? To catch this stuff that you've only got a handful of houses up there, I can't understand why we can't
Yeah.
control that problem up there,
Well, we
you
have
know?
one home, that's a problem, I think.
You gotta start hitting them in the wallet or something about
I
it.
think a lot of those rags never get pumped up and come back at you all the time, a lot of the time.
No, we got that bucket that catches them, so we clean that out once a week. It catches a lot
Well,
of
then you
stuff.
flush it, you should flush it through it, but that's what you should have.
I just don't wanna be throwing good money after bad here, you know, I wanna see this get fixed the right way, and I think you've got the right idea, you know, the volume of water that you'd be pushing through that 4 inch, you'll probably eliminate that problem. And like I said, shooting it at 40 gallons, you're just getting enough to get the bottom of the pipe wet, and not really charging that pipe at all, you know.
Well, there was that other option, if we go to single phase, it would be completely brand new pumps.
Yeah.
That are, we could get whatever grinder style or whatever. So,
That code doesn't take into consideration new pumps, just the electrical equipment.
Well, didn't you say that Doug said that the other ones would work, or the going not single phase would be better? Or didn't he,
So 3-phase,
No,
Right.
He said three-phase was better.
right,
but then you're just gonna have a big increase in costs as far as making that conversion. Cause then you're gonna need a whole new cabinet there.
Yeah. Generator hookup, everything's gonna be
Generator
different.
hookup.
But doesn't it say on here, 3-phase is only $45,000?
That's not including my costs and the cost of
Get up
the,
to it for free?
and you need all the metering, you need new generator hookups.
It seems like it's kinda overkill for just servicing those handful of houses there, you know.
And I don't disagree, I'm sure 3-phase is definitely the way to go, I'm just saying it'd be a, since it's already existing, service there to make it work on single phase would be my recommendation as far as the cost, if you can make it work.
Dan, looking long-term, do we have anything more that if there was more development, that it would behoove us to look long-term and say, do 3-phase now, because we'll have more coming into that if there's any development further?
We're out to city limits now, we're not, we don't own any property, and with the airport out there, I don't think you ever will.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you would be able to build that way anyways,
No.
cause I think that is in the zone.
Right.
Flight,
So you wouldn't
that
be
flight
able to build
path
that.
and that flight plane and everything else over
Yeah,
there.
I think it's always meant to be a field.
But for collecting sewage from 4 houses, I can't imagine we need more than a 5-horse pump, and then the only thing your advantage of going 3-phase versus single phase is you eliminate your starting capacitors. That's one item that you would eliminate for failure, but yeah, like Nick says, what it's gonna cost you to set up the head end there for that small a system, I don't think it's worth it. I think if you can steer along the lines of staying with single phase.
Yeah, you're probably looking at for sure matching that, if not more, for a 3-phase transformer.
Cabinet. What's the other option of using when you use a VFD and you feed the VFD with single phase and have it shoot out 3-phase? Or is that what we're planning on
Yeah,
doing?
that's what that single phase with VFD, that would be, I think that's what they're planning on, I'm assuming.
It'll still be a three-phase pump, but if you're using
Correct.
VFD to get the three-phase.
Correct.
And that's probably the most cost-effective option.
And that's what they did, that's up there on Fairfield and Victor Street, that's a single phase with a three-phase pump with VFD, that's what that is. So, if you guys are looking for, the only three-phase, well, the one down by Bullseye, that's three-phase, and then the one on, Fairfield up the road, that's three-phase as well.
Highland Street too.
So, yeah.
I'd be willing to meet with the guy sometime if you want an outside opinion on that.
Okay.
All right.
And my personal belief is that he was probably pushing for three-phase because it's easier work on his end. Right?
Pretty much. That's what I was thinking, but, and you do have a three-phase source there, which is an exception. You know, a lot of times we didn't have that down on Victory and Fairfield. We went that route. Of course, that whole project got a little carried away there.
All right,
Moving on.
moving on.
Sorry to get you off track.
Well, that's- Anybody have any more questions on the capital projects?
Getting back to the pickup truck, you're prematurely replacing that, is what you're telling me?
Yes, one of them.
Okay.
But we're only gonna be out, we basically rented a truck for $2,000
Yeah.
for 4 years.
I hear that.
So,
And it also
Well-
puts us back where we're not doing two right next to each other, correct?
Right, correct.
It spaces that time
cause
out,
we'll
which
be
is,
spacing this,
yeah.
and, like I said, especially even with water, wastewater, we do need to start looking at, inflation percent increases on some of the stuff. I know certain things don't, because some items on that list, when I talked to Lori, can actually remove because there are these specialty PC, where I don't even see us replacing the thing when we get to that point, so Lori and I will be looking at that again.
From your side of things,
From my
you're
side
saying?
and even their
Okay.
side, there's some weird items on there that we should take a look at, that,
Weird items like what?
like you guys still have that tractor, that old John Deere tractor that can be changed to a different, price now that you got went to a zero turn, that one that you guys got rid of. So that price was still set at $35,000 instead of $8,000. So there's things that can be decreased in value, and there's definitely some things that should be increased in value, like some big ticket items, like pickup trucks, and so we don't get to this year prior and all of a sudden we gotta make these big increases per month to make up these accounts. It's nothing important, it's just one of those things when we get free time just to,
Rearrange the money
Rearrange,
that's left
yeah.
in there.
Well, this is gonna be a rare case where you're gonna be able to trade in a truck for only $2,000 difference, you know, because.
I don't think so. There's a lot of people, I'm not saying we're gonna do it, but there are people out there that are replacing their trucks every 3 years from now. Here's the government pricing. And I don't
Oh,
know if
well,
that's
yeah, with the
ethical or not.
government pricing,
I
you
don't know
might
if
have,
that's
yeah.
ethical or not, so,
Yeah, with the government pricing might be a little different.
and that's why, I mean, they're getting the trade-in value for non-government pricing, you know, so that's where you make up that ground, but.
Well, we were told you didn't need a 3/4 ton truck. I remember that clearly, sitting in
I
the
know you
same
were.
seat here, listening, there's no reason to buy a 3/4 ton pickup, we don't pull nothing that
And I
heavy.
was sitting there, was shaking my head, no, so.
They saw me after the meeting then. So,
It was hard.
Yeah.
I remember some
I
of those,
remember
I
that.
remember some of those things.
Can we borrow it?
You guys know,
We got 3 half tons.
we
they're
all,
junk.
we all have been borrowing the street departments a lot, and it's just time that the utility for sure gets, departments get what they need as far as that.
At what point in time do you believe you'll be replacing your vehicles?
Well, didn't Tim have it budgeted for to do one this year and that never got done, right?
Yep.
Well, we've kinda steered them away from that, cause setup of those trucks were so expensive that time. I mean, we were on the escalator every meeting, and this was prior to Tim being on there. To get those trucks outfitted, every time we sat down, we were spending another $2,500, $3,000 on those trucks. And,
And
yeah,
I'd like to, it'll be in my report, as a topic on the agenda, but I think for progression moving forward is, like, in my, one of the topics is to discuss an approval, and because you find one that's on the lots right now, and it saves you $15,000, cause that price went up making one with a box,
mhm.
and it's $15,000 more than what this price is that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's one of those things where you get it approved, and then that year, instead of building one, you go out and you search these state, contract places like Ewald, is where I found this one, where they build all these right away, knowing that, municipalities are gonna be purchasing trucks like that, and you can get them at a big discount, instead of making them the year prior, or the year that you get approved, do that year build. Well, that's just for the truck and chassis, then you start putting the boxes on there, and I don't know how they do it, but they get a way better price doing it all at one time.
They buy a lot of them.
So it was $15,000 cheaper than if I would go to a dealership right now and.
Yeah, they have a blanket order that they're
Yeah.
ordering 20 at a time or whatever they're ordering.
Year two trucks at the treatment plant. And that year, that was that Cash for Clunkers program where you could not find vehicles at all, and pickup trucks are really hard to pull. So, and I pulled some strings with the local dealer here. He got some out of Shawano or something like that. That's why you had those two pickup trucks at the same time. And like I said, we just took trucks, because you couldn't get trucks, you couldn't get chassis, you couldn't get anything. So we built those from scratch, and they got to be a very expensive endeavor by the time it was all done. So when Tim asked about it, and we kind of all agreed that run them things as long as you can, it's just not for the sake of, because you're not gonna get, that kind of money like he's talking about for trade-in.
12 years old already.
One thing we gotta remember too is one of the vehicles, when we do replace it, should be a four-wheel drive. Cause we have to go down that trail to get samples, that is sketchy in the winter time, I'll tell you what. And even in the spring when it's icy and muddy, that's a trip getting down there, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, we get called a couple times in the winter to help pull you guys
Well,
out.
here's a pretty good one that's getting traded in, right? You don't even have to change the details.
Doesn't that put our wastewater department even more in the red, just asking the question?
I don't think I can pay $25,000 for a used truck.
Right?
But I think you guys should start thinking though, both of them are the same years though, probably would be a smart idea, not saying this year, but start thinking about doing one of them at least, that way you don't have two trucks at the same time or whatever, so.
All right. Moving on. Do we have any other items that you want to discuss on the budget? Peter, did you schedule a summer help?
Yes, it's under, there's, on the summer help, I had one each for
Okay.
Dr. County's water, and they're both in their wages already.
If you guys could see, East Oak Street we got that budgeted too. So this will be another year that we're not putting any new cable in the ground for other sections of town because of that significant hits that we've been taking with the wire replacement.
What do you see as the next place that needs new wire replacement?
Over by Fairfield and Arbor Drive and North Street, or not North Street, South Street. There's a to single phase stretches that are open centric. And then, over up on, trying to think, there's a section over on North Highland, or far North Highland that needs to be replaced, that's open centric. And Downey, there's a couple of small sections, so I have a map with, my yearly replacements, so I've been just pushing these back year to year, but the next section would definitely be that section where we had that transfer blow up, it's open concentric, and we seem to have a lot of problems in the area, so that'll be the first section that gets done.
This is over 40 years old.
Yeah, imagine what this new stuff's gonna last, how long.
We have open concentric on the west side of North Main Street.
Main Street. No,
No, that was jacketed. That's a long time ago too.
a lot of those sections are really hard, because they must have terminated things differently back then, because you peel that jacket back 12 feet, almost all the way back to where it goes into the ground, so they have to really look in there, but typically you pull back your jacket only as far as you need to for the termination, so. But no, that is jacketed.
Anybody else have anything? If not, do we have a motion to approve the budget?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I will second. Motion by Cheryl, seconded by me, to approve the budget. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, discuss and approve new sentient rates as outlined in Schedule 16 of the sewer user charge study completed by Baker Tilly. I talked to Tom Unke this morning for about, almost a half hour. Kind of made me feel I didn't know I was understanding what he was saying. But he said we need to, this rates will go into effect as soon as we pass it. And it will, sentient charges will be there and everything else, as it's stated in here, in this. The rest of the contract for the, mainly deals with the building of the new, or remodeling the waste treatment plant.
Is that where Sensian has the hang-up? Is that where they're concerned?
No.
Or is it their rates, right here, that they're, my understanding is that their rates here, correct?
So Jim, if I can speak, Jim called us the other day and said that he was concerned about the Sensian contract, cause their understanding was currently they're running under the old contract, and then this new contract, he said there was his understanding was there was gonna be two of them. One contract was gonna take them up to the point of the plant upgrade, and then the one, I don't know which one you guys have a copy of or whatever, but the new contract with all the exhibit A, B, and C in, those were gonna go into effect with the new plant upgrade. So I had emailed you that ridiculous set of emails we got. And that proceeded after I even emailed you, cause Tom was having problems remembering which draft of the emails were the most recent, and which copy he had given Lori to send to the lawyers. He had no idea what that was. He'd emailed Peter and I several times and saying, is this the right one? Is this the right one? Then he sent one to Sensient that said it was the final draft of the version, or final version of the draft, and it didn't have the rates in there, it didn't have the right information in there. So then he backtracked and said that he had to make a correction because he had sent them the wrong one. Well, then he emailed, I asked him the question, isn't there supposed to be two? And he said, hold on, I made copies of all of these, so.
And that last email that you mentioned about him sending it out, that's the one I forwarded to you guys that had the note from Tom saying that he had sent it to Jim and John and that it was the wrong one, that this is the final one. And
Right.
so yeah, I had forwarded that on to the commissioners the other day.
So anyways, one of the emails he sent, it says, thanks Peter, I have so many drafts of this. I know I have a final version that has been updated somewhere. Let me look and send you my version since I know I have a good updated one somewhere. So then he sent us another one and said, is this the right one? And we're like, you are a certified public accountant and a partner in a company and you don't know what draft is the right one? Like, look at your dates on your documents, it should tell you. But anyway, so Jim and Jacob from Sensient contacted us, asked if they could stop out and talk to us, and we talked to them, and their concern is the numbers that are in Exhibit A that give them their maximums that they can have, they said that those numbers are way too great. Right now, that contract says that they can have 489,000 gallons of flow as a maximum, if I'm not mistaken, per day. If they do that to us right now, we're gonna have big issues. The other thing it says is they can give us 37 milligrams per liter of phosphorus. If they do that, those RE300 pumps are gonna be running wide open. Wide open. And they said the other problem with that is they talked to corporate, because corporate has to see that contract, and corporate's telling them, well, if the plant's gonna if the contract says 37 milligrams per liter of phosphorus, why do we need to treat it? Give it to them. They can handle it. That says right in their contract. Give it to them. We don't have to treat this. And to be honest with you, Sensient has been doing very well with keeping their suspended solids low. Their phosphorus is like not even a half right now, which is amazing. They've been working with us to correct the flow issues with the flow meters and all that stuff. They've been doing great with all of this. But now corporate's starting to come down on them because they're saying, okay, why are we spending this money if the contract says you can do this? But now the other thing Jim brought up is if you read that contract, it says it expires December of 2022. That's before the plant upgrade even takes place. So now I had asked him, is our understanding back when we started this all as a group was that there was going to be two. There was one that was for the new contract because the old one was expired, and then there's a new one that is for when the plant upgrade takes place moving forward. Because the numbers on that sheet, what we figured out for surge charges and stuff are using the new plant upgrade, that those are the numbers we can handle and whatever. We didn't figure out the cost because quite honestly I don't think between the four of us that should be entirely up to us to come up with hey, your fine is going to be this much money. And I think somebody else needs to be involved in that decision, but Jim's concern is those numbers are too high. So for a customer of ours to come to us and say, hey, this is way too high in numbers, you need to crack down on us because we know you can't handle this. I mean, what does that tell you? And they said they told Tom the same thing, and he told them, no, those numbers are right where they need to be. You're good.
Those numbers that they're giving here then,
The
Peggy,
limits.
are based upon the plant upgrade.
Correct.
But they're saying we potentially, because if they agree to what we're asking them to agree to, then they could.
Yeah, but the
we
way
have
this,
that reserve
but the way
space.
this is written, I would take this as they could do exactly
Right
what he
now.
said, they could
Now.
do it right now.
Right now.
The
Right.
way I read the way I read this right now,
Right.
they
I
can
did
do
too.
it right now. If,
And we can't
If
have
we-
that happen.
if we sign this contract, that's exactly what would happen.
See, but let me see if I have an email in here where Tom sent it, and he explained it in the email to Peter, and he said that we don't have to worry about, okay, please find attached our first draft of the capacity reservation and sewer use agreement that we anticipate using for our upcoming facility upgrade. Now that the current sewer rate analysis has been completed, we would like to continue our future contract discussions. This agreement is meant to incorporate all of the items we discussed over the past year. At this point, we're hoping that your team, meaning us, could help review this in advance of a joint meeting and discuss any questions, concerns, and suggestions. We would like to implement this agreement once final plans and financing has been obtained for the new upgrade early next year. Now, we talked to Matt from MSA, and he basically told us that we'll be lucky to break ground on this thing by fall of 2023. So if that's the case, we can't have numbers like this and accept that kind of flow and phosphorus right now. There is no way we can handle that. None. And we've tried
All right.
expressing that to Tom as well, and he did the same thing to us that he did to Mac this morning. He talks to you like you don't know what you're talking about. Yet this man knows nothing about wastewater. And he said, well, MSA told us you could handle that. That's not true.
You tell him that MSA isn't the one that running the plant, we are, and that we need to determine what, I don't know, what should the numbers be, I guess I'm asking you.
Well, Peter had figured out some numbers one day. We had kind of all sat down as a group and figured some things out, but he didn't want to hear those numbers, so.
The,
Oh,
okay,
I
what they,
think that all this stuff's gonna be dealt with with that meeting that nobody can attend.
Well, see,
Then all
and
those emails are going out.
well, then, Vermillion said Unky gave him the 11th and the 15th. Vermillion says he can't be there the 15th, so it sounds like the 11th. Now, I'm going to be out of town all next week. That's the 11th. But I figure there's 4 other commissioners that should be able to.
well, it's gonna have to be at 6 o'clock.
And they're saying it's gonna be early morning.
They wanna do early afternoon. They wanna do afternoon.
Well, that's out for me, cause I work.
I mean,
It's gonna have to be a posted meeting then.
yeah. Ross or Dan will have to chair it. But we gotta do it.
But, I mean, in order to, you need to figure out what these numbers should be before that meeting.
In your spare
That-
time.
Those numbers are gonna be for after the upgrade, right?
No, I'm saying for right now, these numbers for right now, what,
Right, but that contract
I don't
is-
care about these
Okay,
numbers,
all
that's
right.
down the road,
Yeah.
these numbers could change
I'm just,
between now
just
and then.
clarifying, cause it's like a
Yeah.
lot of those numbers,
Yeah,
these numbers, whatever,
these
we're
numbers,
not sure.
these numbers are not acceptable. I think everybody here, from what what these people are telling us and what Cynthia is telling us, these numbers are unacceptable. We need to figure out, I don't know
I
between
came
you.
up with numbers and he didn't wanna accept them, so.
Tom didn't.
I don't
Tom
care
didn't
who,
want
I don't
to.
care.
Tom Unky didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
went
don't-
basically off of our permit, what our discharge
Well,
numbers were.
Yeah.
Well, we can't go above, and so there's no reason why they should even be close to those numbers.
And that's what we need to have in a
Yeah.
current contract and say
For
this is
now,
what we can
yes.
handle
Yeah.
right now. The rest of this contract that says, you know, with the upgrade and it'll be for however long that we finance for and all that. This one is that secondary contract, I think
Correct.
that
Yeah.
that you were talking about.
After
that
the-
I
once the
remember
plant
hearing
upgrade
as
takes
well.
place,
Once
yes.
the plant is upgraded, they shouldn't even be close to these numbers.
Even
That's what
then.
we-
Even then.
Even then,
Yeah.
why would we allow them? I mean, yes, okay,
Exactly.
the capacity is there, but
See,
what
and we had
happens
asked that
in case of
question to
emergency?
MSA too, asked Matt, you know, how did you come up with 37 milligrams per liter? Well, you know, an oxidation ditch can handle that and they could easily give you that much and it would be no problem. I find that hard to believe. I mean,
Yeah, it's not-
Tom's
I'd like to-
Tom's got getting his information from MSA.
I understand that, but he's not listening to us either though.
The
Until-
only thing I'm thinking is that we're asking Sensient to fund 33% of this project, so we need to give them 33% of what we can physically handle. And that's the theoretical number.
And theoretically, we still don't have to give them 33% of it because we
theoretically,
still
exactly.
own the plant and determine.
Cause we're not,
what
maybe
we
our
do.
plant, we're not running ours at, are we running the other 67% at full capacity?
That's my opinion where those numbers came from.
Right.
It was $1.00. Okay, you're paying this much, we can give you this much.
But that's why I think we all need to get together, even as many of us as we can get together in a room so everybody's on the same level because and that's another thing that I expressed to him or we expressed to him in emails and I had told you you sat in a meeting out at the plant and you told him that you wanted, like, the commissioners and yourself and us involved in the emails every time. That doesn't happen. Some days he emails Peter, some days he emails me and Peter, some days he
Sometimes I
emails
get
Peter,
copies.
Lori, and Dan. Some days he emails whoever, so nobody's ever on the same page or in the same loop. And then he tells us different things than what he tells Sensient, than what he tells whoever. So, and actually Jim Vermillion had made that comment too. He said, I think he's telling us what he thinks we wanna hear, and he's telling you guys what you wanna hear, so what's actually being done here? And he said, if I was you, I'd be concerned because you're paying that bill. Is he really working for you? And I said, that's a good question.
Well, this job should be done already.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
We emailed him these numbers back in this contract for the Exhibit B,
June?
July 12th is when we finalized it. It is now October. And he says to me, well, what were those numbers again? 3 months ago I emailed you. I even forwarded him, because I saved all that. Forwarded him the same email and it had the date right on there.
Is this your exhibit B, are these numbers correct, Peggy?
Based on what he had for in Exhibit A, that's what we came up with.
Based on exhibit A, but
Correct.
not what we would accept right now.
No.
I was
So-
under the impression come August, we were gonna be underneath a contract that was gonna help stop the bleeding.
For now.
For now.
That's what we were under the
Like-
understanding, and I asked that question. We asked him on a teleconference call, and he said, no, there's one contract.
And I had called Aaron Worthman last week to verify that, and I said we thought that there was gonna be a contract for the interim before the new
Yes.
plant. And he said what we were supposed to do is, they did the sewer study, so they figured out the rates that Sensient should be at, and that those rates would be billed, and the limits would still be what we are at now. So.
That's not right, those aren't right, I mean, they're too high as well as
Well,
far
right,
as we're
but
concerned.
Let me finish. So I had reiterated with them, I'm like, okay, so what, all we're doing is going off the sewer study, putting those rates into Sensient and billing them the same procedure we have now, and it's without a contract. And he said, yes, that was his understanding of how it's.
That's
gonna-
what I got from Hunky today also, that we put in, put these rates in so that we can start charging Sensient more.
And then we keep the limits the way they are, that we've been
The limits
billing
stay
them
the
at,
same as they presently are.
which are better than what those are, I think, but still not
I
right.
mean,
Okay, right?
Can you live with those limits?
The ones that, right now?
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't even know what they're at right now.
Well, let me show you.
But I guess the other question is, Jim kinda had made mention to us, isn't that contract already expired, the current one?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
still
it's
need a
still-
contract.
Right, we still need a contract, but it does say in that contract that it'll continue on until a new contract is made. So this
This
is,
is what you signed.
the flow,
This is
so
not
under
contract,
these
it's just
policies.
This is not a contract, it's a suggestion to increase rates
Page with the ID and just on the
based on their
salaries.
study.
But it'll be up on the top of the thing.
So flow right now, it says over 270,000 gallons, that's what we've kinda been holding them
Yep,
to, right?
yep.
Started there.
And then BOD is,
We are way up there, I'm lost, I'm like,
Are we signing a
I got
contract?
this, I know where.
We should be approving this and dealing with all this other stuff in that meeting.
see, and I don't know pounds, I know milligrams per liter, so.
Yeah, I
This
got
pounds is based on flow.
Concentration times 8.34
How was
times.
Right,
it. Yeah.
So
I'd have to figure out what
Flow,
they're
the
paying.
same thing on Friday, it's just I
Average
printed
pounds
mine on,
goes to 12.6
it's, mine looks
and
thinner,
that-
cause I.
So they're, they've been really good, but if they can go up to 300 pounds, that's a
Yeah,
lot of
she did.
BOD, that's like our raw.
Yeah.
But,
Peter,
Holy
if we were to
crap.
take and get numbers, from you at this point in time, right now, we need to approve this, our rates, that's what we need to do regardless of what we do contract wise, because then we can bill.
Phosphorus.
But if we can get the numbers that we need, we should be able to put them into an exhibit A and make a contract that would have some of the
Right, I had
verbiage
numbers,
in
but I
here,
didn't wanna look at them.
but not all of
Didn't
them.
want to accept them, he wanted to accept Matt's numbers.
well,
Tom Unky did.
Correct.
yeah,
It's still our decision as this
Right.
commission.
and we're
Right.
telling you right now to do that.
Yeah, okay.
Please.
I had it all.
I don't know that I don't know that Cheryl made it that clear,
Yeah, but
but.
I was going off of our permit, what our
So-
limits are.
Right.
Yeah.
So
But
we
I
can't
wanna-
go above that.
I wanna know who can make it on Monday.
what time on Monday? I guess that's the biggest thing.
That's the
We
biggest
need
thing.
to- From my looking at the phone messages.
What was the 11th?
The 11th.
What did Jim say he could make it on the 11th?
The 11th is, he can make. The rest of the week is bad for him.
No, that was Matt, I think, right?
Oh,
No, Tom said he's available on the 11th or 15th.
The 15th does not work for Jim Vermillion.
Yeah. Or was it Matt that said he couldn't do it the rest of the week?
Right here, Matt said he's fairly booked the week of the 11th, but if we let him know when we wanna do it, he can try and move some things around. Who,
Matt,
from MSA?
yeah.
Because I think he's the guy that gave us the input on, or gave Tom the input on what these numbers should be, so.
Yeah, with the new plant upgrade, but we aren't there yet.
No.
Right, but I mean, you know what I'm saying though, cause I kinda feel, I don't know, I mean, in having the discussions we've had with Tom, the man talks in circles. So I was our thought was if we have Matt involved as well, one of the two needs to have, well, if they're both on the same page, they should have both had the same side of the story, don't you think? I mean, that was our thought with having them both involved, I guess. But I guess it's up to you guys how you wanna handle it, so. Jim Vermillion made it sound like early afternoon on the 11th worked for him, so, cause I think he's working at this plant on that Monday, so.
I won't be here now. I booked
He
this.
works at you.
I can arrange my schedule, I just need to know if I need to be at work at 5:30 to work
How
until
late is
10:30
he available
to go
towards
to
the
a
end
meeting
of
at
the day?
11 for
Jim?
an hour and a half.
That I'm not sure. That question I can't answer. I don't know for
Can
sure.
we see if we can schedule it for 11 on the 11th,
11 a.m.?
11 a.m. on the 11th? Cause I know he said the afternoon did not work or evening did not work.
Well, on the
I mean, I'd love
11th,
to
he
have
said
Bart
early
with us.
afternoon works. Jim said
Okay,
early
whatever.
afternoon works. Yeah, he said, how does early afternoon on the 11th work for everyone, so.
How's late afternoon?
Huh?
How's late afternoon?
I don't know.
Work all our schedules for one guy.
What time are you guys
What time late
thinking?
afternoon are you wanting?
3:30.
Then we send a message and say we can meet between 3 and 3:30, that's starting point,
Just set
because
a
we
meeting
can't
up
commit.
for 3
That's
o'clock on
right.
the 11th.
And I might be able to swing that.
Okay, well, why don't we do
I
that then?
promise you I can swing that.
Peter, will you take charge of that for us then,
My
instead
normal
of that
scheduled
meeting
hours
with
are
the,
8:30 to 4:30.
What would you like me to do?
Next
on the
week,
11th,
that's-
let
next
everybody
week, that's
know
what
that
they
the
will be
meeting is
because I am
scheduled
off
for the
on
11th.
Friday.
Well,
Send them
At
an email.
3
we
o'clock.
get him after 4:30.
Okay.
That way they know it's
So,
coming from
But if I have a meeting,
a
I can
source
talk
that.
to my
Well,
boss
and
really nicely.
we'll copy
and say,
have him
Yeah.
copy everybody
I
on
need to
that
leave work
then,
early
and
this day. Can I
where do you
start
wanna
my
meet
hours
then?
on Tuesday, Wednesday,
Right here?
and Thursday? And usually he's pretty agreeable to that, as long as I give him notice that that's what I
So-
wanna do.
If you can set it up, or you want me to let him know
But
too?
middle of the day is not gonna work.
That'll have to be a posted meeting.
Yes.
Well,
That'll have to be, have an
Posted meeting?
agenda.
Yes, it will,
With an agenda, then
too many of us at one time.
Ask him for 4 o'clock, Peter, and see what he's got to say.
He said early afternoon, so that's pretty push it.
Well, that's early for me.
4 o'clock then?
Ask, see what he says. Works better for all our schedules. Got 5 people trying to accommodate one person, that don't work.
Okay.
See what he's got to say.
In the meantime, we still gotta decide what we're gonna do for sewer rates here.
You guys will be done with your
discharge,
work day,
and
too, if you wanna sit in on
the
it.
proposed rates, and nobody likes them, but I think we have to, so I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the proposed rates as given on Schedule 16.
Second.
all right, is there any more discussion on this? If not, all in favor of the motion, you got the motion by Cheryl, second by Dick. Sorry about that.
That's all right, I'm on it.
All in favor of the motion to approve these rates signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried.
I think these, do we have to say when these rates are effective? That was the only other thing. Is
Yeah.
there a
Well,
time that we have to?
Just go to common council and have them do an ordinance next week.
Okay.
Oh, geez,
And
that's
then-
another 2 months.
That's 2
And
months.
then
Next year, you can do
2
it.
months, we can start
do
in
it.
the,
Ordinances take 2 readings.
Some-
we take 2
Haven't you
readings?
been, seen them go through with one? But yeah, it's an exception.
I don't know, that's city attorney,
We have to.
As soon as can be.
It's gotta be an ordinance change? Lori, you're sure?
There was an ordinance, that we did with the sewer rate, increase.
Yeah, but that's for all rate structures. We're talking just, the only adjustment we're making here is just for one customer.
According to this
No,
will
this
change
goes to
all
everybody.
customers.
No, this is everybody.
This is
All customers.
But the changes are only for the one customer, correct?
No,
No, they're all-
Okay.
All customers.
Yeah, your host,
I'm trying to
Everybody
find
else
that
is
exception you're
2 or 3%.
talking about, Matt.
I,
Yeah.
I'll, I suppose I can give him a call tomorrow. And see if it's possible.
Oh, we gotta have 2 formal readings, whether they gotta be a month apart or not, I couldn't tell you that.
otherwise we can have it start with the November billing of October usage.
That wouldn't work if you gotta do the ordinance.
Right, I'm just saying, if we can get the exception, then
Oh,
be able
yeah,
to do
if you
that.
can get the exception, I don't know what that exception's gonna be, but we better have it in
Did you
line to
read
be
the
able to
bottom
read
of
it
this
on
thing?
this next Tuesday.
Rates as adopted and effective February 1st, 2020?
That must be the old rates, I'm guessing.
Well, that must be, that's the,
The old
okay,
rates.
never mind.
That's the old
That
rates.
says present monthly rates, the B refers to
Yeah,
present monthly rates.
Yeah, okay. I'm reading things again, eyes are going batty. All right. Moving
So,
on,
Matt, you'll find out about the ordinance? if you
Yes.
need to, or how to do
Otherwise, it won't take effect until December, right?
that. Right,
Which would be the second reading.
so we'll
Nick?
have those be effective
are you
as
still awake?
soon as the,
There's even so many days after the second reading before it takes effect.
I know.
When is the next council meeting?
Next
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. This
So they have to have it on there to do it for that meeting then?
Oh, yeah.
All right,
I already discussed this in the budget, for the trailer, but, put on the agenda to discuss the possible approval of purchasing it, now because they have stock trailers. I did call to see what the cost was gonna be. They said they had one in stock right now for $13,500. Next year's stock will be $15,500. So we'd be saving $2,000, if we purchase it now. So that's why this is on one of my agendas, or one of my points.
and it's coming out of the same
Yeah.
fund.
Yeah, this fund is already there. It's not changing any funds between now and 2022. So these funds are here, it's just you purchase it
We're
now.
saving it.
Right,
So the reality is, this new capital item is not there, you're asking for it now.
correct.
The same with this 3/4 ton
Correct.
pickup, it is really not as part of our capital items.
And
it'll be done, but.
it is a capital item on the budget, but it's just in a vehicle replacement fund, so it's
Which
not
can be
affecting the
handled
budget.
anytime.
Right, it's not affecting the budget, but I put it on there in case we decided not to, but
Lori, how are we funding that vehicle replacement account now?
monthly,
The departments pay into it monthly.
per item.
Right, so it's basically just a monthly payment that goes into that. And,
So each department, each entity is contributing.
correct. And right now, electric has, 396,000 in it, water has 129,000, and sewer has 83,000.
Initially, how this was set up, when we were dealing with exclusively with Power and Light, they gave us a payment discount every month, and that's what used to fund this account. Used to give us like 2% payment discount every time we paid our power bill with them. That's how this was usually funded. Couldn't remember how that shifted after we went with WPPI and we're running through a brokerage firm, so, but, yeah. So now, can we adjust the amounts from each department
As far
that's
as,
contributed?
um,
Because as we found out, Nick likes to spend money. I mean,
Nick has
got a $250,000 $250,000 digger derrick
Let's say
truck,
show
and he's
off
got the
new
balls
trucks
come in
and
here and want more.
There's no overspending. I called that trailer was due. Yeah, I had some little kids in school, bucket trucks. Well, yeah, you got these little classes, they come over to, you gotta show off those trucks, kinda like the fire department,
Oh, there's a shot. Okay. All right.
Right on the ball there, man, right on.
All right. So what's your pleasure?
I make a motion that we approve the purchase of the 20-foot deck, EBY over axle trailer with ramps, with funds from the equipment replacement fund.
Delivery December 31st.
Minus,
Is there a second?
minus
I'll second.
10,500.
Motion by
Price less
by
traded
Dick,
value.
second by Ross to purchase the 20-foot deck EBY over axle trailer with ramps from the. All right, is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Second topic is basically the same thing, situation. When I was price checking out trucks with the state contract versus what was out on the lot, it was almost a $15,000 savings. Ewald in Hartford currently has a truck, it's a Ford with utility box. It's the extended cab, so it has two regular doors and then short doors in the back. 350, just like the city's white truck that they have, it's exactly the same.
Gas or diesel?
Gas. Especially with how being in town, diesel.
No, I just was curious, but I was hoping it was gas.
Right.
Actually, I should look at the price and I assumed it was gas.
They initially did give me a little ball on the trade-in value, so then I did take that pickup to other places and told them what the highest trade-in value I received, and then they honored that, so. Like I said, we're having that truck since 2017, it only cost us $2,000 on, so. Basically, just a truck for years there.
All right. What is your pleasure?
I'll move we purchase a new three-quarter ton pickup truck with utility boxes. And this is the price for 20.
Yep.
With that price for $26,464.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Ross, second by Bart to purchase the three-quarter ton pickup. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
All right, project updates. Highland Street conversion has started. I did receive all the easement signatures from the 3 residents. Today, Cook's Telecommunications was potholing all the services that run along that road, all the water laterals and sewer laterals, because they're going to be boring and stretched. There's going to be a lot of pipe in there with AT&T and Charter because it's all going jointly. So their gas is running parallel with where we are running our utilities. So they're having to do a little extra potholing to make sure that no gas is hit along that way. So, that process has started. Automated pet care update, we have, got the call from GE, transformers, were shipped, from Texas, so we should have them here by the end of the week. Yeah, not FedEx. So as soon as that transfer comes in, tomorrow Shane and I are gonna go finish doing the riser, for that service. And that way, when the transformer shows up, all we have to do is get the PTs and CTs installed and put that out right away for them, because they have been asking, we'll call them weekly for updates, and I told them, I said, well, they did wait a little bit on giving me a signed contract, so, but that should be getting done by next week, I would assume, unless something happens in shipping. Animix, talked to Fox City Builders, and they're now requesting a service upgrade on their building for a grinder. The grinder is requiring a 277/480 service and putting in a 600 amp service for that. So we need to upgrade that transformer at Animix. Thankfully for them, I did order at the same time that I ordered Automated Pet Care a backup 500 kVA transformer. But that puts us in the same situation where now we don't have a backup 500 kVA transformer. So that transformer will be here this week as well. Because this is an upgraded service, I do need to double check our rules and rates as far as what charge Animix is gonna be receiving if we do give them a credit on a transformer with that, or if they have to do the full cost. Because typically a new service, we cover up to 100 kVA transfer, which is roughly $8,000. And 500 kVA transformer is about $18,449. So that's a big difference for us to figure out whether or not if they receive a credit for this or not, because it is an existing transformer already, and the transformer wasn't due for replacement yet. So I'll have to look into those rates and rules to figure out what charge Animix will be finalized. We do have to do some footing, concrete work for that foundation where the transformer is going to be sitting, because there's a concrete foundation there for the existing transformer, but that's a much smaller footprint transformer that is there currently. So typically we handle that ourselves, so they'll get charged for that as well. But as soon as that transformer shows up, we'll figure out how we're gonna build them, and then I'll be placing an order for another 500 kVA transfer, which hopefully is not 38 weeks. So we had 3 disconnects, all are on but one, and one of those I did contact Kylie, because I always typically check back up on meters the following day. I take a drive by the house to see if there's any kind of theft going on or anything like that with extension cords going to neighbors. And this is an apartment building off of Main Street, and there's an extension cord coming out of a person's window, and it's going down to the community garage. So this guy is stealing power from the landlord. Kylie did contact the landlord to see what kind of directive to be given if we are, because we've had this in the past where the landlord says pull the plug or to cut the plug or whatever. Since this is the landlord's garage, you know, he has to give us the directive of what to do. So he currently still has his extension cord going to the garage, and the landlord hasn't really said anything to do with it yet. So we'll be following up on that. We'll be calling him again, and hopefully he gives us the directive to get rid of that so that we can get paid. Otherwise it goes on the landlord, so.
Nick, is that the apartment that has 3?
Yep.
I talked to the landlord this morning because he also has a water issue, and he
Yep,
told me
that's the
he
same
went there
guy.
yesterday and cut the cord, so.
He did, okay.
That's what he told me, so,
We told him it's his power, he can do what he pleases.
yeah, he
so
said he went over yesterday afternoon and cut the cord on the guy, so.
I know he did tell us that they had 3 refrigerators in that place, so, I don't know. But so all I put on but that one yet. We do have a few streetlights out, we're waiting on material, we're out of bulbs. These orders do go in well before we are out of bulbs, but these lead times are insane. So I know Dan's getting some calls, I know I'm getting calls, we don't have a lot, we have 7 out. But we're just trying to be patient, and when people have lights out there, that seems to be more of a concern than anything to those people, so, as soon as we get bulbs in, those will be getting taken care of. And then we once again got a call from the jail for, voltage issues. And we went up there to verify what was going on. I brought with me the PSE rules with what we're required to provide them as a voltage, because they are over 500 demand usage. We can provide them plus or minus 10% voltage on their services. On their 277/40 services, we were at 290 volts, 277A, which is well within 10%. That's 27 volts, so we can go plus or minus. I gave them the reports, showed it to them, and the guy it wasn't Russ that I was talking to, it was their lead out there at the jail. And he figured that they had settings wrong inside on their transfer switch and their devices that they had on their secondary services. I did go back there 20 minutes later after I did verify that we had appropriate voltages to these guys, and the generator was off, so they must have changed some settings, because I saw that they had an electrical contractor there looking at it, so. And looking back at that previous event, we were still within, we were well within our 10%, so they got things they gotta figure out on their end.
You know, where my previous employer, I could see it range anywhere from 460 to 500 volts, depending on the day.
Right. And especially, they're the furthest customer out on any of our circuits, no matter how we feed them, they're the furthest ones out. And how voltage work is there's line loss and load losses throughout that circuit. The further you go out, the less you get voltage drop, the farther you go out. So our regulators, they make adjustments at our substation. They sense what load is happening on each phase of the substation, and they regulate there at the substation. Well, we go from a big load with the summer high temps, now we're down to these cooler temps, people aren't running their AC units as much. So instead of having that lower voltage, they're having a higher voltage now, there's this swing. And they must have their settings so tight on their transfer switches that their generator was kicking on. And we have taps in that transformer, and they have asked me, well, can we change the taps in the transformer? Well, if you do that, any slight swing that you have, you're either gonna be over your 10% then if you don't catch it in time, if you're not monitoring it, because at this time it's set at our neutral position on that tap changer. It's A, B, C, or D, or E, and it's on C right now, which is, there's no more coils or less coils. The transformer to induce a greater or lesser voltage on that secondary. So our system is good. We're providing them the correct services and voltage, so the issue is on their end. That's all I got.
All right, anybody have any more questions for Nick? All right, next up is Peter.
Alright, so I had to get a hold of Municipal Well to get a revised quote for wells 1 and 3 for the VFDs, because when they showed up with the materials the first time, they couldn't do the job, because they didn't have the ancillary equipment to do it. So he ended up coming back and looked at everything and gave me a quote of $28,672 for cabinets and actually upgraded, the VFDs, so. I have on here review, discuss, and approve purchasing, I don't know if, was it approved with the budget then, so it wasn't necessarily, I didn't have it, so it's down, I guess.
It's on the budget, yes.
Okay.
But that would be for 2022, when you would need to do it now, is that, or would you like to do it
Well,
now?
I guess
I
I
don't know
could
how that
it
works.
could wait till next year, could probably do it.
Was this parentheses, Lori, it says approved in 2021? That price
The price
is
was
Right.
That was actually,
25,000.
it was actually 19,800, for, in 2021, but I guess because of the cost of the equipment, that's why it's so much more.
But it was approved in the 2021 budget,
For
correct?
the, for the quote that Tim had gotten before.
At the
lesser amount.
19,860.
Yeah, for a
So-
lesser
So the
amount.
reality
So
is
really,
you're
Reality
looking
is
for
more because.
$9,672
Yeah, it's
is what
more-
you're wanting us to
Right.
approve.
Correct, correct.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Well, actually, I think it's like 3,600.
Oh,
Because
no,
it was
'cause it
approved
was
at
approved at-
25,000.
No.
It was actually approved at 19,000.
That's an error on the
Okay, I'm
25,000.
not sure where the
Okay.
25,000 came from.
It was
That's my
actually
fault.
$19,822. But because of the more, heavier duty VFDs and, different equipment, more upgraded equipment, that's why it's more.
But it was already budgeted for in
Part of
2021's
it was,
budget.
yeah.
That's what I was just, yeah. I don't have that
So if we
right.
approve it now, we'll be actually approving a little bit more of
That's correct,
what you said.
the
Will be-
9,000.
yeah,
Approve
will
the
be-
increase of 9,000.
If they install it after January 1, it would be the same as if it was the 22 budget anyway, correct?
Right, but the monies were approved, Alex, for 21.
Correct.
So we've already said that money is allocated for you
Go
for
for
that,
it.
all but this difference that is what you're looking for right now. So if we approve it now, we could approve it now and say, yep, go ahead and we'll find the $9,000 someplace else. And
I
then
guess
it's
the
not into
question is,
next
what's
year's
easier
budget.
on your end?
I don't think it makes a bit of difference, other than we know that we've already approved it. That's where it's coming from
It
right
might
now.
be cheaper now to do it now than 6 months from now.
Sure.
Or it
I
might be
think
more expensive.
The hard part is with that company is they're so booked out
Yeah.
that they likely will not get here before the year anyway.
But if you contact them now and get a
Signed contract.
then they have to abide by that.
Yeah.
Right.
So, what price?
So I
So
guess
the
I have, I basically have the
8,372.
quote, I guess.
You just have
I
to
just
sign
have
it.
to
and-
sign it and give it back to them.
Yep.
So
What
your
does the
approval
quote
to
say,
do that.
30 days, how long, a lot of times those quotes say 30 days around.
Actually, it doesn't even say it.
And we were taking this from the DNR replacement fund anyway, correct, Lauren? Was where this was coming from?
I
No, there's no-
don't
no,
think
not
so.
for the
Oh,
wells.
that's, I'm looking at the wrong thing.
I don't think that one is.
That was the lift station.
Thank you. Let's see.
We've still been holding in at well 3.
Yeah.
They were.
That's a big step though. I was very
tightened them-
skeptical.
We tightened them enough.
The heat in that cabinet even went down. It's not nearly as much as it was.
Pay me for what I do, you just pay me for what I
I looked at it and said,
All right, so your
That's it.
pleasure is you're just gonna wait.
It's old school.
Okay.
Okay.
do. You ain't
All
gonna
right.
believe what they put on us.
I thought we were gonna, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were gonna try to.
Peter,
do
what
the
are you wanting us to do
contract
with this
now.
right now? Cause I'm of the mindset, tell you, go ahead and sign that, let's get it scheduled for this
That's
year.
what I'd like to do.
because
Get
we've
it as
already
scheduled and
allocated-
get it as
But
done as
I
soon as
think it needs to
possible.
be approved for an additional $8,872.
8,850.
9,822 was the total amount that we had originally. I'm gonna make the motion to go ahead and
Sorry,
approve
go
this
ahead.
with the additional amount as.
Okay.
It was 22.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Cheryl, second by Bart to approve this, the soft starts for wells
Schedule it
1 and
away.
3. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. You're next.
Approve having Alex come off of probation as of the 12th of October.
Has he learned anything?
Yeah.
Give me a full year.
I gave him his review today and he passed it with flying colors. So.
All right. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by me, second by Ross, to have Alex come off of probation as of 10/12/21. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Okay, may I ask a question real quick? Alex, are there particular things that you wish to learn? That, I mean, you've been here the year, but are there particular things that you wish to learn? That you're like, haven't touched those yet.
I would say everything we do, we basically do together. There's nothing that's really outside of the scope of what I've been doing that we really even do.
Good.
I haven't gotten into the lab really, which
We'll work on that.
I ran the lab up north for 4 years anyway, so I
Don't
know
mess
what,
up her lab.
I know it anyway, so that's the only thing I haven't really done, and I already know it, so it's just converting to
Doing
her
it
lab.
Patty's way.
Yeah.
Peggy.
Peggy.
Peggy's way?
Patty's the
Doing it
last
Peggy's
one.
way?
Yeah.
Doing it Peggy's way?
No, I've
No
been,
more peas.
I got the right P. Doing it P. Her way.
Right.
All right,
Thank you.
Hey, you.
all right. Projects.
Projects. Liz is doing very well. She's picking up on all the tasks very quickly. And she had her first solo weekend this past weekend, so. We had to have William Reed come back to redo some of the discharge piping that they installed for the ortho analyzer. Otherwise, the system is working very well. The results we're getting from the analyzer are right on compared to what we're getting for results in the lab with that meter. We had LNR meter testing come back here and test our large meters, and we found no problems at all. So, and then this was on the 28th. Alex noticed that there was some water coming out of a hose over at Auto Pet, and we went over there and we saw that they had a garden hose hooked up to the a spigot that was coming off of a blind flange on the new building that's on Western Avenue. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out how much water that they had used, because I talked to Scott and apparently he noticed a week ago that the water had been on, so through a garden hose, it could be anywhere from 5 to 15 gallons a minute coming out. So if you say you use 10 gallons per minute, it would use 14,400 gallons a day. And if you multiply that by 7 days, it's over 100,000 gallons of water.
That
So
was not metered, right?
it was not metered, no.
How come the service is turned on?
It's the new building, right?
It's the new building there.
as a courtesy.
Courtesy. That's what we put temporary meters in for.
Well, they got
Is this for concrete mixing and stuff?
yeah. So there's a pool meter on there now.
Okay. So I was gonna ask.
guidance as to what we're gonna.
Cause that's
is
gonna
it
show
somewhat
up as
fair?
water
It's
loss,
gonna-
correct?
yeah, it's
Absolutely,
gonna be
absolutely.
water loss, so.
It's always been policy there, we don't run anything unmetered,
No.
you know, and if it is, it's, set up with a temporary meter and whatever, or the service isn't.
I guess I didn't realize that they were doing that, so.
Cause they never contacted us, correct, Peter, to tell us they
No.
were gonna use water or needed water, so.
No.
They turned it on their own?
You have to contact, Victor. He's the general.
I did, I talked to him.
What was his excuse or explanation?
Really didn't have a.
Do we have a fine?
Don't cheat yourself in figuring it.
Do we have a
I mean,
fine?
I would
for
add,
doing
I would figure out the start date and then you guys know when it turned off, right?
Yeah, that's why I figured 100,000 gallons, 11,000 gallons, or.
Oh, that,
or-
you know the start date, or is that?
Well, according to Scott, he noticed it on the 20th, and Alex noticed it like a week later, so.
So it could have been before then.
Oh, we also can't say for certain it was running 7 days all of that time either.
Yeah, I mean, if they're just
Well,
using
well,
it
They
to
just had it on while
To
the
mix
brick
concrete,
was.
but-
Can't say that it wasn't either.
You can't say it wasn't either.
No.
We can assume, we're just making, you're gonna have to make the assumption that
So
we're taking
it's-
the assumption as the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, plumber had to turn on the service after the service was checked for leaks and backfilled and whatever, so. Somebody turned that on and, yeah, I wouldn't be shy about charging where you feel is fair and reasonable. And then there's gotta be that hydrant fee as well, right? That, or that, pool
Yeah,
meter
the
fee.
pool meter fee,
Yeah.
so.
You gotta pay for the convenience.
They had,
Right.
they had the garden hose literally draped into the ditch running 24/7.
Oh,
Just sitting there running, like,
yeah,
come on, guys,
yeah.
at least turn it off.
So then when he figures that out then, so whatever, you figured it was what, a 5/8 hose, Peter?
Yeah,
So you want him to figure out whatever the max is then, or?
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
Alright, just so he's clear, you know what he's gonna figure out,
You're
so.
on the
We'll back it.
cautious side.
If they don't like it, they can come here and complain.
You can shut the valve off.
Another one of those, you should have known better.
Well, that, you know, and that was
Yeah.
kind of the
Not
question
you,
I asked
no.
this morning, you know, is do we just shut the
Alright.
valve off in the street?
That
Because
would've
what
been- that
stops them from taking the
Taking
pool
the
meter
pool
off
meter
and
off.
putting the hose back on the way I had it?
Yep,
You know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
But I just didn't know how that works with the, you know, with that type of service. I mean, that was, you know, like Peter and I were discussing this morning, and we weren't sure how that works, if we can just shut it off in the street, and if they need water, they have to call and we go turn it on and turn it off, or
Yeah.
is that the best way to go about this, so they're not stealing water? I mean,
Yeah,
You-
I think
You
that's.
got a well right around the corner after you check well 3, you make a drive by there.
I think that's what you do is that valve is supposed to stay off until they get that service put in. You
That's
turn it on temporarily for them to check for leaks and then it turns back off until that meter's installed.
Yep.
So we shouldn't even be
letting them do what they're
doing any
doing.
of this.
Well, I mean, like I said,
If
as
they,
a courtesy, it's
Yeah.
fine as long as they're forward and forthright about, you know, hey, what do we do if we need temporary water here? I mean, they've got water at the other building, you know, that they could've ran off of their service over there. I
He
mean,
said
that's,
it's just a mixing mortar. So I can't imagine the use.
He doesn't need to run 24/7 either.
right.
Did you check that pool meter today, Peter, at all, or
yeah, I did.
did they have usage on there?
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right,
That's all I got.
that's all. All right, does anybody have any questions for Peter? If not, very good. Well, since the last meeting, Nick and I attended the annual meeting of WTPI. Was short and sweet, pretty much, and when they asked for questions at the end, and normally there's always a few of them, everybody was tired and decided, we're getting the heck out of here, and it was quick, we were gone. Everybody just took off. Some interesting speakers. First one I thought was the best one. Went into COVID and the results of what COVID has done. It was interesting, but,
He was a statistician,
statistician.
statistician. Analyzes any and all types of stats, and COVID was one of his, and the impacts it has on the electrical industry in Wisconsin, revenues, so it was interesting. But WPI has some good financial standpoints. Power costs are showing a steady line. There's no gonna be big influxes or decreases throughout the next few years. They showed us some PowerPoints of Point Beach plant, which I did attend, ribbon cutting. It was pretty impressive to see. You know, they show us a picture of the field solar panel, but you don't realize that there's 100 fields like that, you know. So they're a pretty impressive piece of equipment. They rotate with the sun, but it's not based on weather or the sun height. It's based on last year's numbers. It's an algorithm as far as at this time it's going to rotate this far based on this time of the year. Last year, this is where the sun's location was to get optimal production out of the solar panels. And in turn, rotating them helps direct the sun on them and keeps the snow off of them in the winters, because Wisconsin gets snow, obviously. It's not like we're in Arizona and getting the full impact, but it was impressive.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
And when we put this on here, we did update the health plan for both the city and utility employees. 5 members did show up from the workforce to express their views on what was decided, and we appreciate the fact that the employees do realize that a zero deductible health plan is kind of a thing of the past. I mean, it's pretty tough to be able to maintain that and absorb the kind of increase in premium costs every year. So I do say thank you to both the city and utility employees for understanding that. It put us in a better position as far as our budget. It about zeroed our budget out for the amount of increase that the company or the state plan was gonna cost the city and utility. By you taking that concession there, it kind of took the edge off that sword. So I appreciate it and say thank you for that. Cheryl, anything you wanna add on that, or we'll talk about the details of that plan?
Who caught the underlining on the 250 to 500 plan with the?
Big Pam.
Pam?
Good for her.
Pam caught it.
Yeah. I thanked her for that too, because I think that made it a little bit easier for the employees to understand why we were selecting that as well, so.
And I'm sure you got the paper showing that people selected the 250, 500 without knowing that information. They would have.
Exactly, and that was what she stated. She was very clear when she stated that, you know, to us, that, okay, this was not presented, or we did not have that information. So, well, the 5 that were there, there was kind of a, oh, so this means, oh, well, okay,
I
well,
said, if we
this
would've
makes
known
better
that.
sense, yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
think the
So,
voting or the tally of everybody, it would have changed dramatically then by having that information.
Oh, for sure.
Other than that, I guess we're moving forward with bidding out the Highland and rebidding the Highland Street project as well as the extension of the Oak Street project. So hopefully MSA will get those details all put together and let out for bid in either late December or early January. So hopefully we'll have some favorable bids. We are looking to do some income surveys on the additional stretch of Oak Street from Depot up to Fair. I'm hoping to get some outside funding for that as well, if they come back favorable.
All right, that is it.
That is it for me.
All right. Any old business?
I have something that I just wanted to follow through with. Last meeting, Cheryl had asked Peggy about Peggy passing her certification test. And I checked with Peggy and she said that she hadn't passed the tests that are for the advanced operators, so there won't be any,
Not a test,
or.
it's just paperwork.
Okay. But
So-
at, whatever that certification thing is, you haven't reached that yet,
No.
so there would be no changes in her wage scale at this time.
All right. That it? Any new business?
I think Peter should introduce his new troop.
You did?
I did before you got here. I wanted to get it before.
I was thinking of time.
It was so unusual.
Welcome aboard. Hope you enjoy working for June.
So far, yes.
All right. Any new business?
Move to adjourn.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.